Hey, good morning, everybody. It's 11 o'clock. I'm going to give this just maybe one more minute for some people to join. I'll be back with you here in just a second. Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name's Dan File. It's 2 after 11 my time, so I'm in Central Time. So good morning. This is today's January 10th tech drop-in session. Um, Please feel free to put any questions in the chat and I will get to those probably after, when the wrap up time. So I do have a helper on board. So she'll clue me in if she needs to get me if we want to talk about something like that or answer these questions. But again, my name's Stan File. I'm a solutions architect with Megaport. And today we're going to talk about a couple of things. We had a pretty good year in 2024. We've done a lot of stuff, so I'm going to give you a Megaport update. I'm going to talk a little bit about Megaport Internet. Everybody always thinks that Megaport is just to get to the different clouds. We do have many use cases that not only getting the clouds, getting between data centers, our MVE platform, Virtual Edge for SD-WAN, and of course, Megaport Internet. It's not new, but I think it kind of gets overlooked sometimes. So you can use Megaport Internet for primary and or backup. Then I'm going to go through a use case, and then I'll go through a demo. And then after that, we can go on the questions. It's probably going to be a shorter session today. There's not much to talk to, so please feel free to bring those questions up and we'll take care of them at the end. So in 2024, we started the year with probably, I don't know, 850, 860 data center locations that we're in worldwide. We've expanded that to 930 locations now. So we are definitely growing in Megaport. Every year, we're adding about 50 to 60 data centers into our portfolio. And of course, we're global. We've also expanded into 3 new countries. We got into Spain and Italy and Brazil. So those are new areas for us that we now have support with solutions architects and sales executives, CSMs, etc. So we're really trying to get more global as we get into these second tier areas. We launched a couple exchanges. An AI exchange we've launched in 2024 and also a financial services exchange. So, these type of AI GPUs as service companies are on our exchange, as well as some of the financial institutions like brokerage houses or stock feeds or something like that. So, if that's the vertical you guys are in, then know that we have a different type of platform for that, right? We also support the new Microsoft ExpressRoute Metro. Now, today, Microsoft ExpressRoute Metro is only available in Singapore, Amsterdam, and Zurich, but we are in all 3 of those locations. I don't really want to go into what ExpressRoute Metro is. We can do that at another time, but but at a base level, you know that ExpressRoute has to have a primary and secondary to meet the SLAs for Microsoft, and those typically are in the same data center. Well, now ExpressRoute Metro means you can have the primary in like an Equinix data center and the secondary in like a CoreSite data center or wherever Microsoft puts those NNIs, right? So not only is it a primary and secondary, has to be in the same metro, but now it's across 2 different data centers. So at a high level, that's what ExpressRoute Metro is versus regular ExpressRoute. Um, we've expanded availability of our 100 gig VXCs. So we used to go up to 20 gig. We can go up to 25, 40, and full 100 gig now. We do support, we've been upgrading our 10 and 100 gig backbones to 400 gig. And in the metros up to 100 gig instead of 10 gig. So we have a lot of bandwidth going not only in the metros, but globally with our 100 gig and 400 gig links. We also we do a lot of APIs with all of our um, deployments. You can do APIs. We also came out with an official Megaport Terraform provider, so you can go out to GitHub. We have our Terraform provider out there for you guys that want to code and use Terraform. Everything's out on GitHub to access and rebuild and create Megaport services. We also are the first provider to be on AWS Marketplace. So now you can always just have Megaport, have your own account, but now you can use your AWS Marketplace and deploy Megaport services from there. So if you need to understand more about that, you can reach out to one of the Megaport sales executives or your AWS executive. And then, of course, improved Megaport internet. So what does that mean? Well, we always had internet, but we used it for our, MVE platform. And it really wasn't a robust type of service for using just like regular DIA at the data centers. So now we've built it more robust. I'm going to show you how we build it in a failover fashion to where you can actually use Megaport as your internet provider if you choose to, instead of having to get like a Lumen circuit or an AT&T or a Verizon DIA. You can use Megaport for your internet. Just a quick kind of refresher on our connectivity model. Of course, we can do data center to data center. I think some of our customers forget that. They think that we only use this model to get to the cloud, but we definitely can do data center to data center connectivity up to 100 gig with 100 gig ports. We do have in a lot of our data centers 100 gig ports enabled. So you can use anything from 1 gig or 1 meg up to 100 gig worth of bandwidth between data centers. You can get to the clouds. This is what our traditional model is. Companies will come to us and use us to get to the cloud. We have this internet one we're going to talk about. So, you already have a port in your data center. Maybe you got this model where you're getting to the cloud. You can just add on a virtual cross connect. We call it a VXC to get to the internet. And of course, deploy as a global backbone between like United States, EU, and EMEA, right? So we also have that type of capabilities. Again, with our MCRs and MVEs, it's really a feature-rich environment that you can do a lot of things with your company environment in your SD-WAN and global backbone. So let's talk a little bit about the internet. So in each of the locations that we have internet in, we have it in the United States in most of the core cities like Chicago, Dallas, New York, Washington, D.C., Atlanta, Phoenix, West Coast, going to be LA, San Jose, Denver, Seattle, etc. But anyway, you can see on this graph here that, you know, be the different type of access models, whether it's a port or an MCR or an MVE, what is available in what country, right? So here in the United States, you can connect the internet to a port, you can connect the internet to an MCR, and then you can connect the internet to an MVE. Inside of those locations that I talked about, we have it set up as a HA availability with two ISPs coming into each of those locations. So if this happened to be Verizon here, let's say, and maybe this is GTT or NTT or Hurricane Electric, whatever internet we have in that location, let's say Chicago. Then if one of the ISPs fails, then it's going to take your data path from this port or MCR or MVE and then switch it over across the HA pair and then out to internet service provider 2. Now, if this box goes down, you wouldn't need to have redundant ports or redundant access models here. But if an ISP goes down, it will fail over to the other and go out to the internet still. So it is highly resilient. It depends on how you build it back here, depending upon your resiliency level that you would like. So this is kind of the use case here. There's two of them. I'll log into the portal here in a minute, but let's just say that a customer, uh, I'm in St. Louis, so I chose the Neutrality Data Center downtown, but they already have their connections to Azure and AWS. And all of a sudden, maybe they had their internet provider coming in here, Spectrum or Verizon, whoever they had their internet provider, and they lost internet. Well, typically, most customers in a data center will have a backup internet provider, and they're paying for that monthly, and they typically may never use it, right? You can't, they don't want to have two internet circuits in, let's say each of them was a gig, and then, they're running 2 gig of service because when one of them goes down, that gives them 50% of the capacity that they need. So, typically they'll have a primary internet circuit and a backup internet circuit. Well, in this case, since they already have a Megaport port that goes to Azure and AWS, you could just spin a virtual cross connect up to use the internet, right? Straight off of this port. It's going to come in on a different VLAN. You assign that VLAN in your switch or in your router. You can start running traffic at it. This can go up to 10 gig if you want to on the fly. You could build this connection. Let's say you want to have it available all the time, but you can set this on a month-to-month term and put it down at like 20 meg. And then you would have your primary internet over here if that's what you wanted to use with another carrier like Verizon or AT&T as your primary internet provider. And then you're paying a very small cost for this pipe. You've already built it at 20 megs, so you got all your routing, your failover routing, and then when that AT&T circuit goes out, you can jump into the Megaport portal and bump this up to 1 gig or 2 gig or whatever until AT&T fixes that circuit, right? So this is more like when you're using ports as an access. This other one here is, I just want to remind you about Megaport Cloud Router, that when you are tying AWS and Azure together in the clouds, from a data flow standpoint of view, maybe you have your some of the web traffic, maybe your web traffic sits in AWS and some of your database and applications sit in Azure. You can use an MCR to tie those and keep all that data flow local, and then, of course, tie it back to the data center in St. Louis. And again, maybe have this internet come back to St. Louis because maybe this is where all your internet drains are. So two, kind of two different ways. If you just had a single cloud, maybe you're more in this model. But keep in mind that when everything's hairpinning through the data center, this is maybe 10 milliseconds away. So you got 10 milliseconds back from Azure, 10 milliseconds back up to AWS. Realize 20 milliseconds doesn't sound a lot of time, but it does hinder your application performance. So with that, let's kind of get into the portal. So here's the Megaport portal. This is our dashboard, right? So this is a development portal. You're going to see a lot of stuff in here when I go into the services, but right now I have 27 ports, 13 are up, 14 are down, kind of gives you a dashboard of what your specific account would look like in the Megaport portal. So you can see when I go to the services tab, I have all these different deployments. Like I said, this is a Megaport. These are all the different people within Megaport use the same portal. I'm just going to kind of zero in on my deployments. So these are the deployments that I built. The first one was a port. Now I'm not tied up to a router or anything. This port would go green if it was. So I do have a connection to Azure and AWS. These won't come up until the port comes up, but I kind of pre-deployed them here. Let's assume that I'm kind of waiting on my cross connect from neutrality here over to my cage, right? I also kind of built this little demo here where I can use this because MCRs are our virtual platform, virtual routers. So I can build an internet to this and see it come green. You can see I already do have a connection here going to AWS and BGP session going to Azure. I can go into my looking glass here and see, if I was actually transferring data. I just have these the express route and the direct connect set up, but you can see my status is both green. I've got BGP up. um, I can do static routes. I can do all kinds of things that you would normally do in a router, right? So this is my IP addresses for both scenarios. So let's go back to the services tab. And first thing we want to do is in this deployment, we want to go ahead and add Megaport Internet. So I want to build a connection. Now keep in mind, this won't come up again because my port's not live. But I have all these different things that I can do. I can make another connection to the cloud. I can make a private connection, meaning between two Megaport services. So that would be like if I want to tie that port to that MCR, which we'll do later, then that's what's called a private VXC. Or two ports in my, I have data center one and a data center out on the West Coast. I can build a virtual cross connect between those two data centers. Here's Megaport Internet. That's what we're going to do today, but I'm going to talk about Internet Exchange is where if you want to peer directly with other companies that are on Internet Exchange, these are going to be typically like Google, Cloudflare, Riot Games, TikTok, things like that. You can peer directly with them on an Internet Exchange. Um, we have our Megaport Marketplace. This has 300 plus vendors on it. So you can see all the different um, partners that we have that sit on our marketplace, like 8x8 or, ASN Telecom. So you can go out there and explore if there's any companies that you work with on our marketplace. And lastly, I can go in and create a service key. So if I purchased a company, um, and we have different accounts on the Megaport backbone. I can't just automatically connect them because they're in a different account, but I can create a service key and give that to the other company, maybe that I partnered with, and then I can make a connection to them because the other company, my sister company, gave me a service key, and I can create a VXC over to that service key and join these two companies together. So really, the focus today was to go ahead and build an internet. Here's my port in St. Louis. It's really simple. I just go find out where my closest internet is. Now you can see here that I'm 6 milliseconds away from Chicago. I am 16 milliseconds away from Dallas, Ashburn. Um, I have Denver, New York, etc. So I'm going to probably go with this one in Chicago. It's only 6 milliseconds away. Do next. I'm going to give this service level reference is an optional field if you wanted to put in a PO here, or maybe this was for a specific project, or maybe this is backup to Verizon, whatever you wanted to. You could put that in this service level field and it'll show up on your bill. Again, 20 megabit is the lowest, but I could go up to 10 gig. I'm just going to build this for 20. Let's go ahead and build it for a gig so you can see that pricing. So if I wanted a gig of internet onto my port on a no minimum term, it's $420, or 12-month term, it's $350, and then it scales out to 36 month. Now, this is pretty inexpensive if you call me. I mean, I've been in the business a long time, dedicated internet pipes. So there's somewhere between 800 and $1,000, depending upon the vendor you use. So this is a pretty good deal. I'm going to go ahead and then add this VXC to my cart. Now I haven't ordered anything yet. You can see that it's sitting here, but it tells me it has not been ordered yet. So I'm going to go ahead and order this. And this should only take a few minutes to deploy. Now, again, it's not going to deploy because my port is not up, but that's why we're going to go ahead and add it to this MCR so you can see how quickly this internet comes up. Let's go ahead and go into this connection. I'm going to add internet. I'm going to use Chicago. This will be backup for AT&T. I'm going to do 20 meg. Put it on no term. Okay, go ahead and order this. So we'll give this a few minutes to come up. It's working on being deployed. But you can see based on what we had on our deployment model, this deployment model is actually what I deployed right here. So I have my port in St. Louis, I have my Azure, I have my AWS, and I just added an internet drain to it, right? This one here is going to be that second model where um, I actually added it to the MCR because I want to show it going green. But you would typically probably bring this back to the port itself. Once this deploys, I can go in here and look at my BGP configuration. It hasn't totally come up yet. I can look at some of the internet details with my IP addresses. This is going to be a new feature in coming up here in 2025, where today, if you want to have us advertise your IP space, you bring your own ASN, bring your own IP space, then we would have to manually do that in the background. This is something new where if you want to advertise your /24 or greater, you could put in your ASN that's registered with Aaron, and then the block that you want to advertise, and put that in here, and we'll advertise that to our upstream provider. You can see here's the IP address that was given to me, my /31. This is the way it comes today. If you do want to bring your own ASN, you would get in touch with your SA and your sales team, give them your ASN information and your IP addresses that you want to provision, and then we'll get that done in the next couple of days. But you can see I got logs, I got usage. I have a billing model here. Oh, this is demo portal, so it won't show much here, but it would show you over time how much you're spending on either all services or just the specific service. Okay, back to the portal. You can see now my internet is up. It only took about a minute or two. And this is available for use now. So you can start routing all the internet traffic out this drain until Verizon or AT&T got their fixed. Again, if I wanted to connect this port over to this MCR, it's very easy to do so. I'm going to create a connection. Actually, let me create it from the MCR. I'm going to go ahead and create a connection to private VXC. I'm going to go find my port. Here's the one in St. Louis. I want to make this make this 1 gig. No minimum term. And again, if this was a live port, then I would just be building my BGP on this side to the MCR right here. So pretty easy stuff. Christina, I know we have just a few minutes left. Is there any questions I need to answer?
No questions today. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, I hope this helped you guys. Please come into the different tech drop-ins. We go through a lot of different things, and I wish you a great weekend. Thank you.